Today at Reese Dixon, I am tackling some organization. Hi everybody, it's Teresa with ReeseDixon.com. So for this year, as part of my crafty goals, it was to use up some of my bead supply. I mean, half the fun of crafting is buying all the beautiful things, and my beads had gotten a little bit out of control. So let me show you. This is me mid-organization. Really, it's just me after taking everything out of the drawer. There is so much, I could not even get it shut. And I have a bunch of these little organizers, but they take up way too much space. They're not meant for beads, and they're just way too big. So I've got to do something with this mess. So once it reaches the point where you've got too much stuff to even know what you have, it's time to take some action. And I am typically such a hyper-organized person that was just keeping me up at night, literally. So I had to do something. Because I do so many different types of crafts, all my sewing and jewelry and clay and paper and everything, I have to be super organized so that I can fit it all in one place. So the only room I have for beads is this one drawer. So I had to do a little bit of purging, which is always hard for me, but only a little bit, because part of being a crafter is you never know when you're going to need to use that specific piece. So I just had to ask myself really sternly, do I even like it? And that's all I got rid of, was the stuff that I just didn't even like. If I couldn't see myself using it, I had to get rid of it. And but obviously that didn't take me very far. I still had a lot of organization to do. So I went to the dollar store and I went to Target, to their dollar spot, and I bought some organizational supplies here. I've got some baskets and some little bins and things. So let me walk you through. Because my space was so limited, I had to be smart even about which organizational supplies I used. I had used, to separate all of my little tiny beads, I used those boxes you would put embroidery floss in. But that took up too much space for everything that I had. So I went to the dollar store and I got these little pill caddies. And I used these to hold all of my seed beads. Because they're so much smaller, they're just a much more effective use of space vertically. You know, the embroidery floss, I'd often have this much bead and this much cubby. And so all of that was just wasted vertical space for my one precious, precious drawer. So I swapped all that out for these little pill caddies. And these I can stuff full. And because they're just this one little tube, they can compact very easily. So I have what used to take up about a quarter of this drawer now takes up just this little section. So I've also got all these bins dividing up different materials so that I know exactly where to go for what. So here's my wire bin. This bin is full of threading supplies like elastic and some cord and the stringing wire, all of that. And since that I use so frequently, I wanted to have that close to the front and accessible. Towards the back here, I've got some supplies that I don't use very often, like a wire jig and some supplies that I'm kind of saving for projects down the line. Now, I've also got these bins here separating out like findings. Like here I've got some ring blanks and some bracelet blanks and charms and things like that. So all of those findings go together, but since those are for specific projects, I'm going to leave that towards the back. I've got another bin here full of wooden supplies. And again, they're for specific projects, so they can go towards the back. I don't need to get at them every day. The stuff that I use every day, that's what gets the prime real estate. And so first and foremost, it's my tools, because these are out of the drawer more often than they're in the drawer. So I have all of my pliers and my tin snips And this little bead tray that I love can also hold those all, and that just gets front and center space so that I can barely even, on those times when I'm so hard at work that the whole room is just a disaster and I can barely even get my drawers open, I can still get to my tools. So then up front, I've got more beads that I plan on using soon. These are the supplies that I want to use in my monthly jewelry design that I'm working on this year. Here's all of my chains. I use those constantly. And then I separated all these beads by color and material, just like I did with the wooden ones. So here's all of my metal beads. These are all of my blue and green beads, and these are basically just everything else. Because I go with a lot of blue and green, I discovered doing this. So let's see, this goes back here. Underneath all of this, like I said, I had to use every spare inch. So I've got a caddy where I've got all of my pearl beads all together. And this little box, see, this takes up a ton of space. So I just happened to have it left over because I was so conservative with everything else. But as soon as I run out of space, this will be the next thing to go. And I'll find a nice smaller little one that can save me all of this room. But for right now, that can stay. It goes right there. And here's all my tools back. Okay, so underneath these that I use every day is more stuff that I use every day. This is my little container for findings. So this is where I have my jump rings, my head pins, my closures, all of those little things that you use every single time you make a necklace, right up front. So, okay, that's just about everything, except I also wanted to keep separate the pieces that, there we go, the pieces that aren't beads, that are just pendants or something that would require a special project to build around it. So that's what I've got in this little bin here. Just the little things like this cool hat my friend Elizabeth sent me that are just really special pieces that are waiting for some way to be like the center of attention. And that goes a little bit further back. And then the last thing I have here are these bins here. And so because I do a lot of bead weaving, I like to keep these seed beads that I have in mind for specific bead weaving projects. I like to keep them in the tubes when I have them. Not only because it's just a really convenient storage system, I mean it fits it exactly, but because it helps me to keep the beads that I want to use for weaving set aside from the beads that are just, you know, random. Then these are, I know the exact size of them and how much I have of them. So I want to keep these set apart from the ones that I put in the little pill cases, which are just kind of a random collection. So these get to sit upright in these little bins here. And this also helps me because as I'm shopping, I can see what I need more of, and as I'm in the design phase of a project, I can see exactly what I've got and kind of reserve materials because of all these little cubbies. I can kind of sort it out as I'm thinking. So I can put these right back where I got them. So these are my big tips for organizing supplies like this. Is one, make the organization fit the supplies. So it doesn't matter if it's in a bin. If the bin is so big, it's just creating more of a space problem than having it loose. So get a tub or a tool that fits the supplies you're needing to organize and use every bit of that space. Divide your supplies by material or however it makes sense to you based on how you go looking for it. And think through how you use your supplies so that you have the things that you need most easily accessible. Give that pride of place to the things that you'll need to get at the most. And so I think that anybody can be organized if you just give a little thought into how you actually use your supplies. Even if all you have is one drawer, you can wrangle your stuff and make your life a little easier and your work a whole lot easier as you work smarter and cleaner and save yourself a little trouble. So I hope this was inspiring. If you guys have questions, please leave them below in the comments and I'll get to them. And subscribe to the channel so that you can see how I'm going to put all this stuff to use. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.